He was the family's close friend. No one expected what he was hiding for 20 years. He was there at every birthday, every barbecue, every family holiday. He brought gifts for the kids, stayed late to help clean up, and even gave the bride away when her father died. To the Reynolds family, David Clay wasn't just a friend, he was family. But in May of 2023, the FBI knocked on his door. And what they found inside would unravel 2 decades of lies. A basement full of horrors, a dead man with no name, and a past so dark, it changed everything the Reynolds thought they knew. Because David Clay wasn't just hiding secrets. He was the secret. The Reynolds family lived in Hollow Creek, a sleepy Oregon town where nothing much happened until it did. They first met David in 2003. He just moved from Idaho and said he needed a fresh start. Polite, helpful, good with kids. The kind of man who helped neighbors fix their gutters without being asked. He quickly became close with Mark Reynolds, the patriarch. Fishing buddies, camping trips, poker on Fridays. When Mark died in 2009 of a heart attack, David stepped in, took care of the widow, looked out for the children. Everyone said the same thing. He's just a good guy. So when 14-year-old Jenny Reynolds went missing in 2010, no one looked twice at David Clay. Not then. Jenny Reynolds had snuck out before. She was wild, impulsive, her mother said troubled. But she always came back. On April 18, 2010 she didn't. Her window was open. Backpack gone. No signs of struggle. Police ruled it a runaway. No Amber Alert. No media circus. Just a few flyers stapled to telephone poles. The family was devastated. David helped organize search parties. Paid for a billboard. Drove miles handing out missing posters. He even cried at the vigil. But 13 years later, her disappearance would resurface, in a way no one could have imagined. In February 2023, the FBI received an anonymous email. Just 4 words. Look in David's basement. The sender used a VPN. Untraceable. But they included a single attachment. A blurry photo of what looked like a lockbox, with what appeared to be human teeth inside. At first, the feds thought it was a hoax. Until they realized the photo was geotagged. Right in Hollow Creek. Right under David Clay's house. May 2, 2023. 6:18 a.m. The FBI, armed with a sealed warrant, approached David Clay's home. He was calm. Smiling. Said he had nothing to hide. But what they found was beyond anything they prepared for. Behind a false wall in the basement, covered by neatly stacked storage bins, was a hidden room. Soundproofed. Steel reinforced. Inside was a recliner. A small television. A single stain mattress. And shelves. Dozens of shelves filled with VHS tapes. Labeled by year. The earliest? 1998. The latest? 2010. That's when Jenny disappeared. For legal reasons, we can't describe what's on most of the tapes. But we can tell you this. Authorities confirmed that Jenny Reynolds was on at least 7 of them. 7 tapes. 7 different dates. Leading right up to April 17, 2010, the night before she vanished. The last tape ends with her crying, begging to go home. And then? Static. Behind another panel, investigators found something else. Something worse. A body. Decomposed. Wrapped in tarps. Buried behind layers of insulation. No ID. No teeth. No fingerprints. The face was gone. Cleanly removed. Forensics estimate he died around 2005. But here's the kicker. The corpse had a metal rod in its leg. The exact type used in orthopedic surgeries. Only performed in Idaho. Remember? That's where David Clay came from. And when police ran his real name because David Clay was an alias, they discovered something chilling. He was reported dead in 2004. David Clay had faked his own death. His real name was Kevin Dale Monroe. Born in Boise. Served time for stalking in 1997. Released in 2001. Disappeared in 2003. Officially declared dead the next year, burned beyond recognition in a cabin fire. Body ID'd through dental records. But now those records are being questioned. Because the man buried in David Clay's wall might be the real David Clay. Which means Kevin Monroe killed him, stole his name, and lived a double life for 20 years. Kevin didn't just impersonate David Clay. He became him. Driver's license, tax returns, social security number. He worked odd jobs, volunteered at school functions, attended church every Sunday. He even dated, married briefly, divorced quietly. No kids, no suspicions. But what haunts investigators is how carefully he targeted the Reynolds family. Why them? Why Jenny? There were no obvious connections. No debts. No grudges. Nothing linking Kevin Monroe to the Reynolds, except that he showed up one day and inserted himself into their lives. The more they dug, the more they found. Photos on the Reynolds walls, with subtle edits. Cropped faces. Scratched-out eyes. A drawer full of letters Jenny wrote but never sent. Confessing she felt watched. Unsafe. Afraid. Police interviews revealed Jenny told her guidance counselor she didn't trust Mr. Clay. That she thought he was following her. But nothing was reported. And then there's this. In 2009, just a year before Jenny disappeared, another girl in a neighboring town vanished under similar circumstances. 15 years old. Case never solved. Guess who lived there at the time? Kevin Monroe. But here's where it gets truly insane. In one of the recovered tapes, taped over, almost destroyed, audio specialists recovered a faint voice. Not Jenny. Not Kevin. Another man. And he says this. You don't have to do this. She's just a kid. That voice was matched 94% certainty to Mark Reynolds, Jenny's father. The same man who supposedly died of a heart attack in 2009. Except now, police are re-examining his autopsy. And discovering that the coroner's report was missing pages. And the original coroner? Died by suicide a week later. So now the question isn't just who Kevin Monroe really is. It's what Mark Reynolds was hiding. Why was he on that tape? And whether his death was just the beginning. Because one thing is certain. When investigators cleaned the dust off that final tape, the one nearly destroyed, they expected static, maybe corruption. But what they heard shattered the foundation of everything they thought they knew. A man's voice, trembling, afraid, pleading. You don't have to do this. She's just a kid. The voice wasn't Kevin Monroe's. It wasn't Jenny's. It was Mark Reynolds, Jenny's father. The man who supposedly died in 2009 of a heart attack. Only now, the coroner's report is missing pages. And the coroner himself? Dead. Ruled a suicide just 1 week later. But nothing about this case is what it seems. Because in Hollow Creek, the dead don't stay buried. The FBI scrambled. That voice clip, less than 3 seconds, was enough to reopen Mark Reynolds' file. The original autopsy report was gone from both digital and paper records. His cause of death? Myocardial infarction. But there was no toxicology screen. No scans. Just a quick cremation, and a funeral held 2 days later. Too quick. Too convenient. And remember the coroner who signed off on it? Dr. Alan Briers. He was found dead in his garage. Hanging. The suicide note? A single sentence. I should have said something. Investigators raided the Hollow Creek Municipal Archives. Dozens of records gone. Not just Mark's. Entire years of death records missing, corrupted, or misfiled. But in the basement of the old hospital, one clerk had saved paper backups. A dusty metal cabinet, untouched for a decade. Inside, a photocopy of Mark Reynolds' intake notes. One line stands out. Unidentified puncture wound, upper thigh. Possible injection? No follow-up. No explanation. And right next to it? A redacted name under witness present at scene. But through thermal scanning, the FBI recovered the text. The witness? Kevin Monroe. Back at Kevin's house, or rather David Clay's, a third hidden compartment was discovered. A trap door behind a bolted freezer. What was underneath should never have been missed. Another room. Smaller. Rotting from water damage. But lined with soundproof foam, smeared with something brownish black. A single chair. Shackles. A drain in the floor. And a photograph. Burnt at the edges. 2 men, arms around each other. Smiling. Kevin Monroe. And Mark Reynolds. Dated, 2002. A full year before Kevin ever met the Reynolds family. So now the question is no longer, did Mark know Kevin? It's how long he knew him. And why they lied. In a sealed juvenile case from Idaho, one red flagged by federal systems, a girl named Rachel Monroe went missing in 2002. Age 15. Never found. Rachel was Kevin's cousin. Raised by his uncle. No father. No siblings. The file was sealed due to a minor witness. But when reopened, that witness turned out to be Mark Reynolds. Age 26. Worked as a traveling contractor at the time in Boise. He told police he barely knew the girl. Claimed Kevin was acting strange. But no one followed up. Now investigators believe that the 2002 disappearance may have been the beginning. And Mark may have been there when it happened. Hidden beneath a loose basement tile, agents found something else. a leather-bound journal, filled with cryptic notes, names, dates, symbols, entire pages scrawled with the same phrase. You promised. You said one. Experts believe it's Kevin's handwriting. A log of events, timestamps, observations. But three names appear over and over again, underlined, circled in red. Jenny Reynolds, Rachel Monroe, and one more, Anna Briers, the coroner's daughter, missing since 2006. Her father, Dr. Briers, the same man who signed off on Mark's death, never reported it. Claimed she'd run away. Never opened a case. But Anna's name is circled 13 times in Kevin's journal. A forensic tech reviewing the old VHS tapes discovered that several had been deliberately erased. But magnetic data can be recovered. And on one of them, a fourth girl appears. Not Jenny. Not Rachel. Not Anna. A red-haired teen. Maybe 14. She's crying. Speaking softly. Please, Mr. Reynolds. I'll do anything. Boss. Reynolds. Not Mr. Clay. Not Kevin. Mr. Reynolds. The FBI scrambled to identify her. Run the image through every missing person database. Facial reconstruction. No match. Until they cross-referenced the background, a poster partially visible. A school logo. A private academy in Washington. Closed in 2008. One of its janitors? Mark Reynolds. Now the theory is bigger. Wider. Darker. What if Kevin Monroe wasn't working alone? What if Mark Reynolds wasn't just a bystander? What if they were partners? Two men. Moving from state to state. Creating fake lives. Changing names. Taking girls. And Jenny Reynolds? She may have found out. She may have recognized Kevin. Because she was adopted. Her birth records were sealed until the FBI unsealed them. Her birth mother? Rachel Monroe. Kevin's cousin. The girl who disappeared in 2002. That means Jenny wasn't just Mark's daughter. She was Kevin's niece. And maybe the only one who could expose him. Investigators believe Jenny found a tape. One of the old ones. Maybe hidden in a drawer. Maybe mislabeled. And she saw her mother's face. She confronted Kevin. Or Mark. Or both. And that confrontation was her death sentence. But it may have been more complicated. Because in the last page of Kevin's journal, there's a single entry. Shaky, scribbled like he was panicked. She knows. Mark panicked. We had a deal. I didn't agree to this. Mark panicked. Meaning the night Jenny vanished. It may not have been Kevin who made her disappear. It may have been her father. But there's still the body in the wall. Remember? No teeth. Face removed. Assumed to be the real David Clay. But DNA testing came back. And here's the twist. It's not David Clay. It's not Kevin Monroe. It's not anyone in the missing persons database. That body buried behind Kevin's wall is a man no one has identified. A ghost. But buried in the same cavity was a wallet. Inside it a faded photo. A child. A girl about 4 years old. Curly hair. Big eyes. Wearing a red dress. And on the back in shaky handwriting. For Jenny. Love, Grandpa. It's now clear this was never about one missing girl. It's about generations of secrets. 3 confirmed victims. 2 missing bodies. 1 identity stolen. And the terrifying possibility that Mark Reynolds didn't die. He disappeared. And may still be out there. Because last week in the forests near Hollow Creek, a hunter found something strange. A fresh campsite. A pile of burnt papers. A half-melted VHS tape. And a photograph of Jenny Reynolds, pinned to a tree. The photo is recent. Jenny's face is older. Wiser. She looks alive. Experts are analyzing the ink. The film. The image. But if it's real, if it's not staged, then Jenny Reynolds didn't die in 2010. She may have escaped. Or someone let her go. Or worse, she was never meant to die. There's one final tape. Unwatched. Undecoded. Waiting. And whatever's on it will change everything. The photo pinned to the tree, it was fresh. Jenny Reynolds. Older. Stronger. And definitely alive. But it wasn't a message. It was a warning. Because next to the photo, burned into the tree bark with a knife, were 2 words. She knows. And what the FBI found in the final tape, buried in a rusted ammo box under the soil, would turn everything inside out. Because this was never about a single predator. It was about a network. A pact forged in blood. And a survivor who might be the only one left to bring it down. The tape had no label. Just the number 0 scratched into the plastic. They expected a confession. A killing. Maybe another victim. But it started with something else. A date, October 12, 1998. A recording of a small cabin. Camera shaking. Someone's breathing. Close. Ragged. A man's voice. This is the last one. We're even now. We will disappear after this. Another voice. Come. Steady. Colder. There's no such thing as even, Mark. Mark Reynolds. Still alive. The second voice wasn't Kevin's. They ran the voice through biometric analysis. No match. But a clue came from the background of the tape. A calendar on the wall. Portside Chemical, Annual Safety Week. That plant closed in 1999. Shut down after a string of disappearances. Workers. Teens. Even a visiting journalist. And one man worked there for exactly 11 months. Quiet. No infractions. Then vanished after the shutdown. His name? Derek Langford. Born 1968. No family. No criminal record. No known associates. Disappeared October 15, 1998. 3 days after the date on the tape. The FBI now believed they weren't dealing with just a predator. They were dealing with a cell. A cult-like network of men, connected by something darker than opportunity. Each had different names, different states. But similar crimes. Similar vanishing acts. And one pattern. Each man faked his death. And each had a missing girl tied to him. Kevin Monroe. Mark Reynolds. Derek Langford. 3 ghosts. 3 timelines. 1 survivor, Jenny. And the message she left behind in a hidden safe buried under the ashes of Kevin's house broke the case wide open. Inside the safe, a letter. Tucked in a Ziploc. Still dry. Written in blue ink, shaky but legible. If you're reading this, then I'm either free or dead. But I remember everything now. I wasn't Mark's daughter. I wasn't adopted. I was taken. Kevin told me when I turned 16. Said I had to learn the truth. He said I was meant to continue it. But I'm not one of them. I won't be like them. Then. There are more. I've seen the tapes. I've seen the others. They call themselves the flock. They think they're saving us. Saving them. But they're just killers. The letter ended with GPS coordinates. Deep in the Oregon mountains. The team followed the coordinates. After a 2-day hike in a snowstorm they found it. A cave. Sealed with scrap metal. Welded from the outside. Inside. 6 cots. Dozens of journals. Old VHS cameras. And 4 missing girls' IDs. But that wasn't all. In a back room carved into the cave wall were dozens of names. Etched by hand. Some scratched out. Some circled. One name was etched twice. Jenny Reynolds. And beside it a new name. Maya Reynolds. Age 3. Born 2 years after Jenny's disappearance. No records. No birth certificate. But in the corner of the room a dollhouse. A child's drawing. Stick figures. 3 of them. Labeled, Mommy, Me, and Uncle Derek. Now the timeline unraveled. Jenny did survive. She escaped or was let go. But not before she had a child. And that child was born in captivity. The FBI believes Derek Langford, the third man, took Jenny when Mark and Kevin's alliance fractured. Raised Maya underground. Isolated. Hidden. But here's the twist. In one of Jenny's recovered journals she wrote, *, Maya is the last. I won't let them take her like they took me. I've taught her to run. If I don't make it, she knows where to go. Then in all caps. She's smarter than me. 2 weeks later, a forest ranger in Northern California reported a strange encounter. A barefoot girl. About 5 years old. Dirty, shivering. Refused to speak. She was carrying a plastic bag. Inside. A photo of Jenny. A locket. And a tape labeled, The Truth. The girl? Confirmed via DNA. Maya Reynolds. Jenny's daughter. Kevin's grandniece. The final thread in a legacy built on lies. But Maya couldn't say much. Trauma. Fear. Silence. Except one word spoken during a therapy session over and over again. He's watching. He's watching. He's watching. The tape Maya carried was decoded. Grainy, degraded, but playable. It shows Jenny. Alive. Older. Talking directly to the camera. If this is being watched, then I'm probably gone. But Maya's out. She made it. And that's all that matters. She pauses. Looks over her shoulder. I used to think Kevin was the worst of them. But I was wrong. He was just the beginning. The real leader was Mark. And the truth is he didn't die. He's hiding. Watching. Recruiting. There are more. They're still out there. And they'll never stop. She lifts a piece of paper. A list of names. And then, the tape cuts. Not to black. To static. But hidden in that static, slowed frame by frame, was an image. A single frame. A face. Older. Thinner. Long scar down the cheek. Mark Reynolds. Standing outside a gas station. Wearing a cap. Watching a school bus drive away. The FBI issued a nationwide bolo for Mark Reynolds. But he's never been found. Jenny is presumed dead. Her body has not been recovered. Kevin Monroe's remains were buried anonymously. DNA confirmed. Derek Langford's cave was destroyed in a controlled burn, at Jenny's request, outlined in her final letter. Maya's safe, living under a new name. In protective custody. But the flock? May still exist. And somewhere, someone is watching. Recruiting. Planning. So if you're listening to this, check your records. Watch the backgrounds. And never ignore the inconsistencies. Because sometimes the real monster is the one who convinced everyone he died 20 years ago.